Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we'll learn how to create a registration page like the one you see on your screen. This registration page has been created using Tailwind CSS. So in this video, you'll learn how to use forms and inputs within Tailwind CSS. The good thing about this form is it's also enabled for dark themes. So for the dark version of your website, you can use this dark version of the registration page. And the good part is all this code will be shared at the very end. So if you're interested, then let's get started. Okay, so to get started, what I've done is I've created an HTML document and then I have just given it a link to my Tailwind CSS. If you don't know how to configure Tailwind CSS, I have a tutorial that talks about that, so you can check that in my videos. With that said, let's get started. What you need to do, first of all, we need to create this section, and then for this section we'll give it the following classes. I'll give it a class of relative and then a height of 100 VH, which is HScreen, and then a PY of 36. I'll get a flex and then item center, just to center the items vertically. Once I've done that, I will add a background image to this section. So to add a background image to this section, what I have to do is to use the BG Tailwind class and then provide the URL of the image. In this case, I have my images inside here, and this is one of the images. So once we've done that, I'll also add a few classes to go along with this background image. I'll add a BG center to center the image, and then I'll add a BG cover just to cover the entire width and height of the section. Once I've done that, I should be able to check the results, and you can see here is what we have for the moment. Once I've done this, I want to add this background gradient on the entire section, and it has to be from this top to the bottom light. And then let's see how we can implement a gradient with Tailwind CSS. So to implement a gradient that fits the entire section, what I'll do is create another div and then give this a class of absolute, and then I'll give it a class of insert 0 so it covers the entire width and height. Once I've done that, I will add the following classes. So BG gradient to bottom right, and then it will start from transparent via indigo 400 to indigo 900. So that's what is giving this sort of gradient style. So it starts from transparent, and then here we have indigo 400 to indigo 900. So once we've done that, I will save this and let's check it out. Now you can see we have the effect that we want. So the reason why this absolute class is working, it's because we've given this a relative class. So don't forget that. Once we've done that, I'll add another div to contain the contents of our form. This div will have the following classes. So I'll give it a container, and then I'll give it a margin of auto so that it centers this in the horizontal axis, and then I'll give it a px of 4, and then I'll make this relative. Let's remove the relative for now. Inside this div, I'll add another div. With this div, I want to give it the following classes. I'll give it a flex class, and then I'll justify center just to center this horizontally. Inside this, I'll create another div, and this div will have the following classes. I'll give it a max width of 400 pixels, and then I'll give it a margin of auto, a p of 6, and then a bg white. For the dark version, I'll give it a bg slate of 900, and then a shadow of md, and then during the dark mode, I'll give it a shadow of gray 800, and then rounded md. This should be it for the container of the form. Inside the container, I will add an h5 that says sign up, and it will have the following classes. It will have a margin of top and bottom of 24 pixels, a text Excel, and then we'll give it a font semi-bold. I'll also give it a text of black, and then for the dark version, I'll give it a text of white. Okay, so if I come to see what's happening here, you'll see that now this card that will contain our form is beneath this section that has a gradient. Now to fix this, what I have to do is to bring back the relative class that I removed, and if we save this, this will fix everything. So let me give you a simple explanation of why this is happening like this. So basically, we've given here a class of relative. That means we have changed the order or the stacking order of everything that comes. So when we give this an absolute class, this is absolute to the section that has this relative class. Now, if we give this a relative class, it's now relative to this class as well. That's why this is at the bottom while this is on top. The same as if we take this and put it at the bottom, now this will be at the bottom and this will be at the top. Now it will just be the stacking order of how things will be relative to this section. So that's just a short explanation, but you can just practice it and just try different things to see what effects you get. So let's continue. So now what I will do is I will come here and create a form. So for this form, I want to, inside here, I want to add a div. So I will actually add, let's just go here and check. I will add basically 5 divs. So this is the first div that has this label and input section, and then this is the second one, and then this is the third one, and this will be the fourth one, and this will be the final division. So what I'll do is I'll just come here and use emit. Okay, so and then what I'll do is I'll give both of these a class of margin bottom. So let's just give this a class, and then what I'll do is I'll just give all of them a class of margin bottom -4. Another way of doing this is just to come at the top here, and I would give it a spacing y of maybe 2, 3, or 4, so that it spaces every child elements the same. But for now, let's just use this method. So after doing that, what I'll do is I'll first of all start with the first label. So now I've created this label, and it's for the register name that I'll create, and then it has a text base, a font semi-bold, text black, and for the dark it will have a text white, and then for dark modes it has to change to BG Slate 900, of which I don't need this, so I'll remove it. And then I will now add an input. So if I add an input, so this input will just be text. So let's come input text. Why am I, yeah, so this is input text, and then for the name I'll give it a register name, and then for the ID it will just have the same ID. So if I save this and go back here, let's see. So you can see now I have this and I have this right here, but we're going to style the input so it looks really amazing. So let's look into that. So for the input, I want to give it the following classes. So let's go through it one by one. I'll give it a width of full, a margin top of 3, a padding Y of 2, a PX of 3, and a height of 10. I'll give it a BG of transparent, and then on dark modes I'll give it a BG of slate 900. On dark modes I also give it a text of slate 200, and then I'll give it rounded borders, and then a rounded radius, and then I'll give it an outline none, so it doesn't have any outlines, and then I'll give it a border with the border gray 200. When I focus on it, I want it to change to border. The border should change to indigo 600, and then on dark modes the border should be gray 800, and then when I focus on the same dark mode, it should be the border should be indigo 600. So once I focus, I want it to have no ring, so I'll put the ring to 0. So let's save and see what happens. So now this is what it looks like, and it looks amazing. So you can see from here it has a width of 100, and it has moved away from this section. So here's how it looks. And then I'll just create for the password, I'll create for the email address. So let's look for one with the email address. So I'll come here now for the email address. So for this, the label has the same styling, so let's not bother about that. And then the text also has the same styling. What we've only changed is the placeholder now, but also the ID and the type. So the type is now email, so this is an email input. And then after that, I'll also do the same for the password, which doesn't have to be different. It will have the same styling. So let's do that. Okay, and then if I come here, you can now see that we have these two, and it knows that this is an email input. Okay, and this is a password input. You can see it has these functionalities. So what we want to do next is now to add this checkbox. So to do that, let's go back, and then I will create inside here, I will create another div. And then for this div, what I want to do is to have an input class inside here, and I'll explain about that. And then I also want to give this a class. So for this, the classes will be the following. I'll give it a flex, and then item center to center them vertically, and then I also give it a W full, and then margin bottom 0. So for the input text, this is now a checkbox, and then for the classes, I've given it a rounded, and then we have a border gray 200, and then a dark, for the dark version, it's a gray 800. I've given it text indigo 600, and then a focus of border indigo 300, and then the focus should be ling, and then I want to have an offset of 0. And then the focus, I also give it a ling of indigo 200, and then on focus I also give it an opacity of 0 of 50, and then here I'll give it a margin inline end of 0.25. Now the interesting thing is that if I go back here, you see that this is what we have created. And from what you've seen here, you see that all the changes we made, the CSS changes we made on this checkbox are not really reflecting. A good example is we've given it a text indigo of 600, which by default is supposed to change this to indigo 600, but that is not reflecting. So the normal way to fix this is a little bit complex, because you have to write custom CSS and do things, maybe add another SVG for the checkbox and everything. But now Tailwind CSS comes with this cool functionality, and when we install the forms plugin in Tailwind CSS, it really solves much of the problems we face with, for example, select boxes, check boxes, and everything to do with forms. So what I'll do is go ahead and install the Tailwind Forms plugin, and then what we just have to do is come to GitHub here, and there are instructions on how we can install it. I'll just copy this, go back to my code, and then install this. Once it's installed, I just have to go back to the code here and copy this, which is supposed to go into our plugins section in tailwind.config.js. So I'll come here, and where we have this plugins list, I'll just paste it there. So once I've done this, and then I go back to the browser, like, the issues that I was having should be fixed. So let's learn this again. So it builds. Once it has built, let's go back and then refresh this, and then let's see. Now you can see that this reflects to the changes that we wanted. So what we'll do next is now to add the accepting the text here, the accepting terms and conditions, and then we'll add a submit button, and then we'll finalize everything. So let's finalize everything by coming back here under this and then add more code. So now what I'll do is I'll just add another label, and I've given a text indigo of 600, and it has this a tag, so it's a link, and then I've also given a text slate of 400. So once you've done that, let's see what we have. So we have this now, and then the final thing is the submit button and this. For the submit button, I'll also use the input button. So it's the same input with just a type of button, and then it will have with the type. So it's the same input with just the type of submit, and then I'll give it a py of 2, px of 5, an inline block, and then a tracking wide, so the letter spacing, and then a border. I'll align it in the middle, and then a duration of 500. This is for the hover and transition. So I'll give it a BG indigo of 700, and then for the hover it's border indigo 700. And then after that, what I have to do is just to save it and then see. Okay, and that works. So, and then the final thing I'm going to do is to add another div section, of which we already have. No, we don't have it. So I'll just add another div section, and then let me explain it. So what I've added is this. So I've provided another div, and I want to center the text, and then I've given this a span text slate 400, and then a margin inline end of 8 pixels. Once after that, I've also given it another a tag with the sign in button, and this has a text of black, and on dark modes it has a text of white, and then the font is bold, and then an inline of block. So that's everything that we need to do for this video. So if I refresh it, this is what we wanted for our registration form. And then, like I said, we've been developing this to fit even a dark theme. So to change it for the dark version, all I have to do is just come maybe here, because I just want to change this section, or I can come here and then give this a class of dark, or I can give a specific section a class of dark. And then you see this is the dark version of our registration page. So if you haven't worked with dark modes before, there is one thing you need to do. you have to come to tailwind.config.js and then add a dark mode intro here, and then you can choose it to be class so that you can be able to switch the dark mode depending on the class that is available. So this is all I had for you guys in this video. Please subscribe to my channel, leave your comments so that whenever you have your questions, I can get back to them as quickly as possible. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.